And it's a busy role, as those that are either have done it for a few years or are new to the role. So there's just the intent here is just to go through a few of the key highlights that all secretaries should be aware of. And I've also put in some reference guides for things around governance and discipline and codes of conduct. So just things to be familiar with. I noticed that in the LGFA, Camogie, and GAA actually also publish, and I'm going to try and create one for just to kind of Canadize it a bit, but kind of a task. So it'll outline the task and put the associated date. So we'll see if I can do something like that for it. So let me just start this to share my screen. Oh boy, here we go again. What do you think? How do I share it again, Kim? I every time I do this, I'm.
You click the three dots.
Right. Okay.
Oh no, sorry. Next to the three dots, there's an arrow, upwards arrow, and that's how you share your screen.
I don't have that.
It should be next to the microphone.
Oh, there. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Share. And let's see. Let's see, this is going to work here. Okay, can everyone see that?
No.
No? Okay, what am I doing wrong? Let's try this again. Share. Make sure this is it.
That's working now.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. So a bit of an agenda together for it. Essentially, we're going to go through the key roles of the secretary, communication, administration, meetings, and then there's going to be some reference guides in the back. So the key roles are kind of, fairly known to everyone, but key one obviously is communication. It's communication with club members and officers, the county secretary, the county committee, and correspondence. There's the day-to-day administration of club activities, and that includes membership and registration. Meetings, organizing meetings, putting agendas together, recording the meeting minutes, and then identifying the activities for general meetings and what you're going to discuss, what some of the key plans are for the year, and then getting ready as well for the club AGM. And then club planning, which is really assisting with the development of the club's strategic plan or their annual plan. So the strategic plan could be a 3-year plan, or it could be just putting together the activities that the club anticipates participating in during that upcoming year. I took this chart from one of the GA ones because it kind of really does show the role of the secretary, and that's playing a pivotal role in effective communications. And the contacts are, within the club, outside of the club. You're speaking with members, you're interfacing with the county committee, with other clubs, your supporters, your players, and the public in a lot of cases as well. All clubs, their secretaries are all assigned an official GAA email account, and that's to be used for all official correspondence. There is a rule within the GAA, and I've just taken an extract of that, but it's that all official club correspondence to the county committees or divisional committees must come through the club secretary. Or if in the case that the club secretary is absent, it can be the assistant secretary or somebody who notes that they are answering a query due to the absence of the secretary. So that's a key thing. We have had some situations in Canada over the last couple of years where clubs have gone directly to individuals in Croke Park. They will quickly turn that around and advise the individual who sent the information that it has to come through the county secretary. So it's just a point of order that everyone understands that is the sequence of correspondence. And again, any correspondence that's with the county or the divisional committees that it's purporting to convey a decision that's made by the executive. You should also probably copy the club chairperson. I think just to ensure that, especially if it's a decision that's been made by your club committee. So the first thing I want to talk about is registration. All members of the club have to be registered, and that's your playing members, your social members, your youth members. And the secretary provides, a lot of clubs will have a registrar. So they may have a ladies registrar, men's registrar, depending on the makeup of their club. But the secretary really has to kind of provide some oversight there and ensuring that that registration is happening. And just a note on registration, because we do happen to have these during the summer. When you have sanctioned players or permit players, they're not registered in our systems because they're really considered on loan. So you don't register them within any of our local registration tools. Just a reminder, the GAA membership and affiliation, we pay $5 per registered member that's payable annually to Croke Park. We have a €300 annual fees for camogie affiliation, and then we bill out those fees to the clubs that have camogie teams. And the LGFA affiliation, it works out at $75 per club. And again, we bill those out to the clubs that have ladies football teams. And the fees are payable upon receipt of invoice. As mentioned in the club meeting there a couple of weeks ago, we're going to be using Go membership for registration this year. We're currently just confirming the plans on rolling that out in training. So we'll get that going probably hopefully within the next couple of weeks. As we discussed, so an interim measure prior to this being used, that we've created some online versions of the forms, and I've put all the links. I did send out a communication to everyone shortly after the club meeting call, and it gave a list of all the different forms. So there's forms to do with return to play, with the insurance waivers, and the concussion code of conduct forms. The one that's outstanding is the media release form, and that's used for youth players. And we were just finalizing the French translation on that one. So once that's prepared, I'll send out the links to that one. So clubs, as explained in the email that went out, clubs should duplicate the MS form and save it, or share the link with your members, then complete the forms online. And then you can export that data into an Excel spreadsheet once it's input. So these are a couple slides that kind of show you what to do. You clicking the link to the form that's been provided, you duplicate it, and then you can follow the other instructions to edit it. You can put your club colors in, that type of thing. Once that link is there, you can share that with your members, and they're able to go in then and access the form. And then there's the waiver agreement there, and they will have to attest to that and agree to the waiver. You have to duplicate the form. So again, as I stated, we've got the waivers there for adult and youth, and all of these forms currently are available in English and in French. We've got the return to play health questionnaire, and we've got the concussion code of conduct, and that's for players, for coaches, and for referees. And soon we'll be just releasing the media release one, which is used for youth. The results then are collected are specific to your club, and the chairperson or the secretary, only those that have access to a GAA email account will be able to see those results. You can review the responses that have come in and then download an Excel spreadsheet, and that it gives you a way to track who has completed the forms. So, and as stated, the forms are in here as well in this slide package, but I also sent them out there a couple weeks ago. So one of the key things, especially around this time of year, we're kind of in the last few days now of the ability to have transfers go through. So deadline for all inter-county transfers is March 31st of the calendar year, and that is a hard date. Deadline doesn't apply to a transfer back to a club in Ireland. So I've had this query in the past. You may get a player who in a month from now wants to go back. There is no timeline with respect to a player that is transferring back to a club in Ireland. The deadline is for inter-county transfers here into Canada, and the same deadline applies to the US as well. The requirement for a transfer is that the individuals are already residing in Canada, and sanctioned and permit players can apply for a transfer if in the following year if they're remaining in Canada. So they may have come out in a sanction. We'll talk about sanctions after, but but they decided to stay on. They're not returning to Ireland. That means that they can just apply for a transfer for the following year. So for the men's football and hurling, it's an online system. It's called the Player Transfer System, or PTS. The player, the request to transfer gets initiated. Once it's initiated, then the player is going to receive an email, and he has to go in and complete the required information. And then there's an approval process that just flows through the system. So typically it'll go to the club that they're transferring from, and then the club that they're transferring to, as well as myself, will get an email, have to click on a couple links to either approve or reject the transfer. And then it flows very well. LGFA and Camogie are both done via paper. So there is a form, an interclub transfer form, to be completed for LGFA. The form has to get completed, signed by the club and county secretaries of the current club and then the new clubs. And then those are then submitted into the LGFA offices. Camogie transfers, there is a CC4 transfer form. Again, it's a paper form that needs to be completed. Again, I'm saying paper, but it's online. We're just moving these forms back and forth through email. And again, it has to be signed by the previous club secretary and the new county secretary. So that's kind of, we're in the final days of this, and all of the men's transfers are all available. Anyone can access the site. There's a live transfer list. You can see when your transfer goes through, but you're also notified when the transfer is completed. We also have transfers, we have people moving across Canada, moving into different areas. So the deadline for transferring players between clubs within Canada is July the 1st. And we have an intra-club transfer form that needs to be completed. And it also, we changed it last year, I think it was, or the year before. We want it to be signed by the club that the person is transferring from and the club that they're transferring to. So I've seen a few of these already. It's not as urgent, obviously, before they start playing with the new club, but the deadline is July the 1st for that. Okay. Sanctions and permits. So the term sanction is used in the GAA and Camogie, and whereas the LGFA used the term permit. So deadline for these is July 1st of the calendar year. It's required for all players who want to play for a temporary period, like a summer student. It's required that the players applying are registered with their home club. And the other requirement is that they have purchased the required insurance that's defined by the 3 organizations in Ireland, and that is mandatory. So just a couple things here. We ran into a couple situations where in the LGFA, where they've checked the status of a lady who wants to transfer, and they will actually check back with their home club. And if they're not registered, if they weren't registered at the start of 2020, they won't be granted that permit in 2020 or unless they pay up their full membership to their club in Ireland. So the idea of a sanction is it's really like a J1 student visa. Somebody's just coming over for a few months and they'd like to play. So that's kind of the concept behind this. So they're viewed as really temporary. They're on loan from their existing club and they're playing somewhere else. And then the idea is that they're kind of traveling back to Ireland at the end of their summer or whatever. Sanctions, similar to men's transfers, it's all done online. Player receives the email, etc., and the approvals go through the system. The LGFA have a permit form that needs to be completed, and it's signed by the club and county secretaries. And similarly, the Camogie Association have a CC6 sanction form. The insurance issue is mandatory, though, and there are a number of times where Croke Park will reach out if they're not seeing that the required insurance has been purchased. We've seen situations, and secretaries need to be aware of this, where somebody gets insurance and they're seeing GAA listed on it, but it's incidental, which means that I could be up at the field on a Sunday watching a game, and if I just got hit by a ball or that I'm an incidental observer. It's an incidental impact. Non-incidental, whereas you're actually participating as a team, as part of a team. So it's an organized activity. And so the insurance is a little more expensive there. I know that we have had some comments about the cost of it, but it is to fully protect players if they are playing. And there have been examples over the years whereby some of the medical costs that have been associated with players that have been injured have been substantial. So that's why now it is mandatory that all sanctioned players that are traveling do acquire the correct insurance. And all of those insurance details in terms of who are the approved providers of the insurance are listed at each of the organizations' websites.
Hi, sorry, Angela, is it okay if I ask a question about
Sure,
insurance?
of course. Yeah.
Stephen Owens here in Montreal. So the insurance is mandatory for people that get sanctions, and is the reason for that is because mostly they're not eligible for provincial medical coverage.
Yeah, that's part of it. You know, we have had situations, and we have conferred with the GAA, the LGFA, and the Camogie Association. We've had situations where an individual has come over, say, and they arrive next week. They have a job, and typically, I know that maybe the provinces differ. I think here in Ontario, you have to be working 3 months, and then you're entitled to the provincial health coverage. If that is the situation, there is a process whereby you have to make a copy of your health card, the back and the front, and a few other details. We then share that with Croke Park, and then they will. They have in the past. It's not often that it's been done, Stephen, but they have approved those in the past. Okay,
because this is a point that was raised a couple of years ago, and it's a sort of the flip side, because what we'll experience is you have the people that come from Ireland and they're on their 2-year working visa, and they're not eligible for any provincial coverage. However, when they come before the transfer deadline, they can get transferred in as opposed to a sanction. So they're transferred in, and it's not mandatory for them to have purchased their insurance, but then they can play.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
So you have transferred players in that are not covered by provincial health coverage and are playing legally, which then begs the question: why do the sanctions then have to get the mandatory insurance if the transfers don't?
Anyway,
I mean, it's a different. I mean, it's not for now. This is like secretary training, but anyway, it's an anomaly in the rules.
This is Aisling from Ottawa. I believed that with all of those visas that people get from Ireland, they have to get insurance to come here.
Yeah, that's right. But it's not. I think it's because as Angela just said, that GAA mandatory insurance, it has to be a special kind of insurance. That like there's something about it. I can't remember the exact terminology, but the insurance that they get for the 2 years doesn't include that extra wording to cover the playing of whatever it is.
Okay.
So there's a loophole there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe I should come in here, Angela.
Yeah, Sean, yeah, go ahead.
So there's a fundamental difference between sanctions, permits, and transfers. The GAA don't get involved in the transfer piece because a player who's transferred is now the property of the club in Canada. Canada, the insurance for permits and sanctions is meant to be bought before a person leaves Ireland, but Canada got deviation from that because Canada has the 2-year work visa, so people could actually be living in Canada prior to their application to play for a club. So that's the fundamental difference there. So the GAA take the position that while a player is still the property of his home club, and if he wants to play overseas, then he or she has to purchase the insurance. Insurance that is required is for participation, as Angela said. Not for incidental.
But that still leaves somebody not medically insured if they're playing at the transfer, right?
That's it, but it's our responsibility and the players' responsibility. The GAA in Ireland play no part in the insurance of a transfer player.
Okay, maybe we should highlight that, and if there's any instances of that, be responsible to let that player and club know that they're running the risk.
Can I just, Sean O'Shea here from Toronto Gales, can I just ask, would it be possible if the county board sent out maybe just instructions to each of the divisional boards as to getting provincial insurance for transfers? Because I know we've been blue in the face before trying to get lads to get their OHIP or whatever relevant provincial insurance taken out before they take the pitch, and trying to make sure they have it. But maybe just a few guidelines from the county board would be useful, so we can show the players and say, look, you need to have this before you take the pitch if you were not covered under a sanctioned insurance if you're a transfer.
Well, we produced a document a couple of years ago, and I think we could send that out again, Angela.
Yeah.
It steps it out, ABCD, how it all comes about. Yeah, we can do that again. And the provincial cover has worked well in some cases where individuals have found employment and qualified for provincial cover. And once provincial cover is in place, it takes precedent over the sanction insurance anyway. So it would be the first line that would be hit in the event of a claim. So there is really no point in purchasing sanction insurance if you have provincial cover. And so we brought that to Croke Park. Took a while, but they approved that as well. So as Angela has said, front and back of the provincial healthcare card is all that they require to be lodged with Angela, and you're good to go.
It's Carrie. I'll just add though, if they're here on the 2-year visa, they won't be eligible for the provincial. And so generally, what I've seen people do is that they've just bought regular insurance, from home that they have during their 2-year stay here, and then the CGAA cover would cover for the playing of Gaelic games. So their own, insurance that they purchase from Ireland or wherever they get it. Would cover their day-to-day healthcare, but they wouldn't be able to get the provincial within that when they're on those 2-year visas.
Sorry, I have an extra question. The purchase of required insurance as defined by GAA is mandatory. Is the mandatory status put in place by the Canadian County Board, or is it by Croke Park?
Purchase of insurance for sanctioned players?
Yes.
That's Croke Park.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, I just see a comment there from JP Ryan, Secretary. Do you want to go ahead and share what you said there? I'm not sure your name.
Yeah, no, I was just saying for BC, you are eligible for the provincial coverage, like the MSP coverage on a 2-year work permit. Like I've had it myself when I was here on my 2-year work permit, so you are eligible. Yep. I'm not sure what it's like in other provinces, but in BC, you definitely are eligible for it.
Okay, so we'll check with each province then.
Yeah.
It's like it's the same number.
Ontario is a 3 months wait period after you get employed.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you know what? It looks like I'm completely wrong because it's on Ontario as well. Somebody else just commented.
Yeah, just to be clear,
guys.
The insurance offered by the county board has got nothing to do with the regular medical walking to a doctor's office or clinic. It's more AD&D for it's an injury scheme really. After you've been approved to play.
Okay. Next, the accounts that get issued. So every club secretary, and I think the majority, although they are tightening up a bit, but have been issued with GAA.ie email accounts. Any request that's required for a password reset has to come through me, and then I coordinate the reset with the IT support team in Ireland. Just as a note, they are a Monday to Friday operation. They've just recently had to request a couple of resets and did it on a Friday, and I didn't get the response till Monday morning. So they obviously don't do weekends. So just to make everyone aware. Just so everyone is aware, so the accounts that are issued also allow the clubs to access number of suite of services from MS365. So that's your Outlook, Teams, the Office suite of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, MS Forms, SharePoint, OneDrive, OneNote. I put a link there. It's kind of gives you an overview of the different suite of services that are available, as well as some how-to information there. So just to make sure everyone is aware of that. There's some AGM materials. Another thing the secretary is responsible for, your club AGM materials. So once you've completed your AGM, the clubs are responsible for submitting their statement of financial accounts, their balance sheet, their AGM minutes, and their club committee that's been elected for the following year to the county committee. And those all have to be sent in to the county within 4 weeks of the date of their annual general meeting. As well, I know it happened a couple times last year where I was notified, but any changes that take place during the year to your committee that's been elected at your AGM, you should be communicating those as well to the county committee, just so that we're aware that a change has taken place. We're back on insurance, but just wanted to make people aware that competitions and tournaments, challenge games, they must be sanctioned and approved. And participation as well in tournaments or challenge games outside of Canada requires sanction from the relative counties. So, you know, we do have a number of tournaments that take place in various locations across Canada, and they may send an invite to some of the clubs that are near the Canada-US border. So typically what will happen there is that the US, my counterpart in the US would send me information and vice versa. And again, it's ensuring that the people traveling are covered from an insurance perspective, and getting permission for them to actually play in whatever tournament it is. A lot of training facilities or facilities where clubs are using, you know, for training or playing, they require certificates of insurance. So those must be submitted using the online form that's provided on the website. And once I get a request for a certificate, I'll send it off to our broker, and normally we'll have those. If it's during the week, we normally get a response from them with the certificate within anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. I received them in less time. Sometimes I'll send one in and we have it a couple hours later. So again, there's a number of facilities that will request that they are the additional insured on the actual insurance. The other thing that we need to get clubs to use it more is that we do have a facility where you're supposed to be posting your events in order for us to have them, for us to officially sanction them. So I'll just show you the screen in a minute. The other is that clubs who are hosting events where the service and the sale of alcohol is involved are also required to obtain a separate and additional special liquor permit and liquor liability insurance coverage. So in those particular situations, our insurance does not cover that. So you have to get a separate coverage for that. And I don't know, Sean, if you just want to make a few comments on that, because I know it's come up in the past.
No, I think you've covered it there, Angela. Yeah, the liquor is definitely, you know, outside of the realm of what's covered by the county insurance policy. So yeah, the liquor insurance is an application that needs to be made, and you have to get it.
Okay, and the link that I've put at the bottom of the page, that's where all the forms are that they as pertaining to insurance. So this is the screen where you'll see it on the website. There is a green button. Let me just get the button up here. Down here, post your event. You have to put in your event details, and then we will receive a copy of it and review it. And the event will also be published on the GAA website, so people are also, it's a good opportunity too for other clubs to see what's going on in different across the country with different clubs, what events that they're holding. Meetings, again, you know, secretary is responsible for the organization and preparation for their club general meetings throughout the year and the AGM, communicating the meeting agenda, working, you know, to finalize the details of that and any supporting documents that are required. Recording of the meeting minutes. Some key dates here, specifically around club AGMs. They must be held by the 31st of October. and the secretary will be responsible for scheduling that, putting the agenda together, and the distribution of documents, including the previous year's AGM minutes, the financials, nomination forms, etc. I guess a key thing is to make sure that meetings are being efficiently run, that they're effective, and that they're on point. I often think back to when we had our AGM in Montreal, and I think it was Brian McAvoy may have stated that to not put any other business on an agenda because it just leads to everything and anything. So I think it's a fair point that what's on the agenda is what's covered during the meeting. So good to kind of reach out to whoever is attending the meeting and put what the agenda items are going to be, or if anyone would like something included, and then that can be agreed prior to the meeting being held. So there's some reference materials here. I know Carrie had this also included with the treasurer webinar, but this is the GAA governance guide, and essentially it's, governance is the rules and practices by which the association and the units are directed and controlled. So there is a guide online. We have all of these posted on the CGA website. Just different areas that, the main principles of governance within the GAA. Leadership, exercising control, being transparent, operating effectively, and behaving with integrity. The next is the GAA Code of Conduct, also available on the website. It sets out the basic principles that establish the standards of behavior for all who attend our events or participate in the GAA. And that includes club officers, members, players, parents, supporters, etc. And it lays out the guiding principles, the laws and rules, and the expected conduct, and they're all detailed in it. As well, it speaks to breaches of the code and subsequent disciplinary procedures and penalties. I've put a link in there. I've also included the link to the disciplinary handbook. I haven't seen a newer one. The one that keeps getting referenced is the 8th edition, and it's the 2018 disciplinary handbook. So I don't know that there's been an updated one since that time, but this is referencing the next 3 slides are what we spoke about earlier. These are the online forms. This was also sent out to all the clubs there a few weeks ago, just to be able to start, if you're out starting to train, that you get your members to start completing their waivers. So there's the waivers themselves, the COVID return to play health declaration, and then the concussion codes of conduct forms. So there's forms for the players themselves, for the coaches and the trainers, and then as well for the referees. So you should, be downloading those, as we spoke of earlier, customizing it to your own club, duplicating the form that's there, and then customizing it to your own club, and getting the information out so that your members can start populating those. The one thing, sorry, and I omitted putting it on here, we had spoken about it as well, was the club constitution. The club constitution was updated. There were a couple motions related to it that were passed at the recent GAA Congress. I received a communication during the week from Croke Park, and within the communication, it does have a new copy. So I'm going to taking that. I'll get it sent out to everyone in the next week, and you can go through that and see where the changes are. And we would look to all clubs to meet about this and see where their existing club constitutions need to be updated or changed, and you'll have the new forms. Okay. Any other questions or things that maybe I haven't covered? It's really the secretary's role. I guess secretaries get involved in everything. You have to have your finger on the pulse of everything that's happening within the club and within the committee. So you touch on a number of different areas. I've tried to really highlight some of the kind of key things, more of the administrative side of it, but I see a hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Angela, I had a question about a couple slides before. There was you mentioned about the liquor at events. Yeah. And I was just wondering, does that, in regards to the insurance, does that apply? Like, let's say we host like a tournament at an event, or sorry, at a venue that has like a restaurant in the venue that like we don't control and we're not serving, but like theoretically like those participating in the tournament would have access to it? Is that something that we still need to do, or does that only apply if like the organizing club is the one basically serving the liquor and things like that?
I'm going to defer to Sean to maybe answer that.
Sean, I think you're on mute.
You're on mute, Sean.
Okay, sorry, got me there now. Yeah, for licensed premises, there is no need to apply for insurance. The premises themselves will have the license for the liquor.
Great, thanks.
If we're running a function in a hall or a venue that doesn't have a liquor license and we're bringing liquor in, then we have to we have to apply for the liquor permit and get the insurance.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay. Calgary, you have a question?
Hi, this is Zoe O'Keefe from Calgary. Just to Liam's point in regards to the insurance, if one was to source an event and had like a local brewery selling liquor on the premises and we were to get the permit, in terms of the insurance, is it our responsibility to source that ourselves as a club, or can we utilise the broker of the county board to find someone who would underwrite that? Or what does that look like if that's something that we need to get?
My suggestion on that would always be to go to a local broker, because they all sell that product. So there would be no real reason to deal with a broker out of province.
Okay, for sure. I just was wondering what the logistics were in terms of our CGL and how do we need to tie it up, or if we can just do our own thing.
Yeah, you can. And we had also produced a document on that, which included event insurance. I think we can redistribute that as well,
Yeah,
Angela.
Will do, yeah.
Because event insurance is required if a club is holding an event in a pub or other licensed premise, because in the event that something were to happen in a pub, the county board insurance does not cover that. It only covers your annual events and presentation events and so. If you're having an event in a pub, purchase special event insurance. And people will always say, well, wouldn't the pub or establishment have their own insurance? And that's true, they would, but they don't have to extend it to the club. So when the club is advertising that they're holding an event in a particular place, they should buy singular event insurance to make sure that they're covered for that particular event. Readily available across the country as well in every province from a local broker.
Sorry, Sean, just to come in there, Paula McFarlane here, Rogue. There are a couple of events that are exempt, right, that are covered under the insurance, like our annual awards that we wouldn't have to get insurance for, and golf tournaments, or there's a couple of events. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what I mentioned there. Yeah, the parades are covered as well. The St. Patrick's Day parades. I think we have a list of those.
Yeah.
Well, that we have distributed in the past. We might consider redistributing that list as well, Angela. Yeah.
Yeah, will do. Roisin?
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering, is there a preferred date to have players registered by? I kind of recall there being a date, but I think it's kind of looser now because of COVID, so I just wanted to check.
I think it's July 1st, because that's the last day by which you can, your inter-club, you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So Owen, is this your first year, Owen O'Hara in Edmonton? Is this your first year as secretary?
Yeah, it is.
And how are you finding it? I'm just curious. I'd like to kind of get some feel from some of the club secretaries across the country.
Yeah, it's been good. Like we're lucky in the sense that we've got Kim, who's worn every hat in the club at one stage or another. Mm-hmm. So she keeps things running pretty well. But yeah, it's going fine so far. Obviously, it's not an ideal year to start out, but we're making the best of it.
Very good. Zoe? In Calgary?
Hi. Hi. Yeah, I've been involved with the club for quite some time, but I've never really held an administrative role. So it's a learning curve for sure, but I'd just like to find out that I think these webinars and all of this is very helpful, because I do appreciate that there's a varying level of experience throughout the country. So for those like myself that are very green, I think these are very, very helpful. So thank you for organising.
Yeah, and I think, you know, check out the website as well. And if there's things that we need to add to that, or, you know, get further clarification, I've made a note of some of the questions that have come up, so we will get further documentation out. But if there's something that is unclear on how to access it or whatever, just make sure that I'm made aware of that. You know, we want to make sure that everything is at your fingertips in terms of just checking what needs to be done. Okay, Aisling?
Yeah, so I guess I feel that you have to go through a full year before you kind of see everything. And me being my first year last year, I really didn't see everything yet because of COVID. So maybe by next year, if I'm still here, I'll get over a year and we're actually playing games and that type of thing. But I do really like the position. I'm an organized person, and I just it's great because as you said, you get involved in all different areas, and I just find it very interesting, and it's been good. I look forward to a full year when we've got actual tournaments and that type of thing. So
yeah, that'll make a difference.
Yeah.
Stephen, you're a seasoned secretary.
Sorry, was there a question there?
No, I'm just going around just speaking to some of the secretaries that are kind of new to the role and others that aren't.
Yes.
Get a view of, yeah. Your thoughts on the role as secretary?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Well, what can I say? Yeah, it's well, it's kind of like old hat to me these days. It's if you're brand new to it and you're just learning your feet, it can be a bit daunting for sure. But there's plenty of experienced people around in Canada to help you out. But once you get into it and you're fully aware of everything, for like there's nothing new in these slides for someone like me, for instance. It's very enjoyable in the long run, and it's a big responsibility. So anybody that's new, it's good fun.
Okay. Anyone else want to weigh in, or any other questions that they have around the role itself, or no? Okay. Well, I'm going to make this available. The recording will be available, and the charts. As I said, there's that matrix that the organizations in Ireland put together as just kind of a reference guide. So, you know, under the different categories and different activities and the timeline that they have. I just need to kind of rejig it a little bit for Canada. But again, I find it's a fulfilling role. I've been a secretary at my own club level and then at the county level. And, you know, it's great to interface with all of you, all the secretaries across the various clubs. You know, as noted, we have, you know, a few new clubs on the that have come into being in the last year or two. And, you know, I'm always here if anyone has a question or whatever. You know, there is quite a bit of administration, like, but these are things like on the insurance side and that we need to be cognizant of and make sure that that we are covering our bases and not letting anything fall through the cracks, because it's important. At the end of the day, people go out and play games, and we want to make sure that they're done in a safe manner, and that should an injury occur, then those individuals are actually covered for it. That said, if any other questions, and then I can let you go and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Sean, if you want to say anything, is he tied up or?
Am I on mute there?
Yep. Go ahead. You're on mute, Sean. Still on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. I just want to thank you, Angela, for putting the presentation together. And as we always thank the rest of the committee for all of the presentations that have been done. And we hope that we find them useful. It's great to see the participation, and I hope that we can all use it wisely as we move through these trying times with COVID. And as Angela said, pay special attention to your insurance and your regulations as to what you're required to do before you send your players onto the field to play. Thank you all for participating today. It's been a very enlightening session.
I've just shared a feedback form in the chat, so if everyone could just take a moment, it will literally take a minute to fill it out, but if you could just complete the feedback form, that'll help us make these sessions really valuable in the future as well. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy
right.
the rest of your weekend. Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much.